Hello and welcome everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and in some parts, good evening. Uh, Today we are going to present on a Sunday some news on the New Testament for a Fiori consultant in today's world. First of all, a little introduction. I'm here, Soumalya Nath. I'm a Fiori consultant in Accenture, Netherlands. And I have here with me Sanjoy.
Yeah, hello everyone. I'm Sanjoy Saha, a Fiori consultant working for Accenture Netherlands.
So we both are initially from the lovely city of Kolkata. As some of you might know, it's called the City of Joy. And we brought a little of that joyous and cherishedness with us to Netherlands. And currently now we live in Netherlands. So let's take a deeper dive into what the Testament says about the Fiori consultants. What's in our agenda today? So first, I would like to ask the people who are watching, do you know the new of Fiori? That means, have you heard of the terms rapid activation or content manager or like content manager activation, etc.? Maybe if possible, you can type in the live chat some of the answers. We wanted to do a poll for this, but unfortunately, due to technical glitches, we couldn't do that. But yeah, we will definitely check out your answers after this session. Moving on, first, I would like to highlight some of the challenges that we Fiori consultants face in today's world. Yeah, of course, whenever we are starting a completely new question or a new project, we first have to prepare the sandbox system, and there is always this fit gap analysis pressure, right? Because most of the time you will see that you're working with a team or you're working with a client who has not seen Fiori or who has sometimes not even seen an S4HANA system, etc. So for the functional consultants to really find out a bit more on this modern applications, they need the Fiori sandbox system up and available as soon as possible. That's a really challenge sometimes. The designing of the role structure or a security design, that means to have the proper catalog and group distribution of the application, which is relevant from the business perspective and organizational structure perspective. That is really very, very critical, and it could be a very tedious job. Also, recommending good applications to functional consultants, because yeah, you cannot always expect everyone to know that okay what they want. So it's always our job to uh, suggest what is available and what where we should go with. Yeah. And finally, I am sure you all the fellow Fiori consultants here would have definitely come across this question a couple of times during the project. Okay, how many apps do we have in the system? Like in case we didn't really maintain an Excel sheet or a proper document during the implementation phase of the project, this question could be a bit tricky to answer. So let's see what we can give about all these points. Going back to our homepage, first I'll discuss what is the new normal. Well, just as I asked before, SAP has now given us two new tools, the rapid content activation tools, Fiori Launchpad content manager tools. And using these, most of the challenges that we mentioned in our previous slide could be overcome. And that is the goal of this session, to give you a bit more glimpse into these new tools, a working demo, and some suggestions and some lessons that we have learned by implementing these in our real life client project. Back. So starting with the Fiori landscape setup. So what are the new steps for setting up the Fiori landscape? It's much easier now. First, we use the gateway task list, which is also not so new, I would say. This task list enables your S4HANA system as a gateway for the Fiori. It enables all the respective or the relevant gateways, SAF nodes, HTTP services, etc. And then the most important task list for a Fiori landscape is the Fiori Foundation task. This task list will create, first of all, it will activate the HTTP services that are required. Then it will create the system aliases which are required for some of the Fiori application. And this will create the foundation roles. Without the foundation roles, no user can actually access the Fiori Launchpad or the App Finder, etc., etc. And once we are done with all these two basic setup, then we take the third step, which is the setup of the BW. So as we might know, that in S4HANA, we have an embedded analytics concept now. So we do not always need to have a separate BW system. We can, of course, if we really need a full-fledged BW, if we are doing a full-fledged BW project. Otherwise, in an embedded analytical engine can be activated using the BW initial setup task. This is also highly important because this is a prerequisite for using all the analytical apps for Fiori. And finally, when we are done with these, we set up the enterprise search for Fiori by using the initial setup task list for ESH. And this will build the model, the search connector for all the software components that we select. And this is highly critical because the enterprise search has advanced to a whole new level in Fiori Launchpad. Now, going back. So let's see what Sanjay has to say about the new activation concept.
So this application activation, this is the Fiori content activation task list. And you can say it's a new tool to activate SAP Fiori apps based on the selected SAP delivered business roles. So you can see in the screenshot, we have 450 roles which we can select for activating the Fiori apps. So it is actually the Fiori content delivered by SAP to experience and evaluate SAP Fiori for S4HANA. So yeah, so now you can see here you have option to select all, but our suggestion is you don't do it. You don't select all at once. Why I'm saying? Because we already faced or experienced that if we select all, then the performance is very low and you will run into a lot of errors. So if you can distribute these 450 roles in different batches, and then maybe you can put some numbers, maybe 97, 98, 99, those business roles, if you select, you can uniquely identify your batches. And then if it will be a better performance and very easy to identify the errors, and it will run faster. So our suggestion is don't select all at once. So now we'll show you
So
the tools in action.
let's take a look into the content activation task list. So yeah, of course, we have to run it from STC01 transaction. And yeah, we'll just paste it on the task list panel. Then we get the list of tasks in it. And so the first one is to give the names of the roles, business roles, standard business roles that we want to activate. Okay, I have already copied a few standard roles, maybe not so many, maybe I'll just take two from here just for this demo. And there is another option here where you can actually select the roles from the available list of standard roles. So in the current S4HANA system, there are 400 something roles. Please do not select all the roles at once for activation. Yeah. Next is, yeah, as you see that the entire process is transportable for the rapid activation. Currently, I'm just putting the temp package, but yeah, you can put your Z package. Now, the processing mode for this should always be co-deployed. As you know, that the recommended S4HANA system architecture from SAP is embedded now. So co-deployed is the best mode for you, okay? And there should be a prefix given for the roles that will be generated. I just give a Z. Basically, all the standard roles will be copied, and a Z role of each standard business role will be created in your system from this task list. There is one additional optional task that is to create some users. This is very handy for sandbox environment. So you will get each Z user for respective Z business role that will be created. So let's create one. Just give some initial password and some initial role assignment. So as we have already described, initially you need to run the foundation task list. So this role will be generated from there. This is the basic Fiori Foundation user role, which is needed. Okay, I think now we are all set. So let's execute. It will take a little time to execute depending on the number of roles that have been given for activation, and of course the number of applications that are linked to those roles. So each and every relevant OData services for the applications, for the roles that we have given as input in this task list will be activated here. Their respective SIGF nodes will be activated, and this entire OData service activation process is now transportable. Yeah? So we can we do not really need to do this activity again and again in the other systems in acceptance or in production. This saves quite a lot of effort actually. And voila, we have the result.
Yeah, so as you have seen that now we have generated the generic administrator and end user roles. So now the next step is after rapid activation, the next step is this Fiori content manager. So it is actually, you can say it is a supplements or betterment for the mass upload of tiles and target mappings, and it is called as Fiori content manager. Here you have the option that you can create your custom catalogs based on SAP's business catalogs. You can use SAP business catalogs as a template for your own custom catalogs, and you can add or remove your applications, and also you can add your additional applications to your business catalog. But yeah, if you want to create any new tile or new group, then it is not possible from here. Then you have to go back to your Fiori Launchpad designer as you are doing earlier. So you have to then create your copy your catalogs, and you can create new group there, and you can assign catalogs and groups in to a PFCG role as we did earlier. So the same you can do. And here you can see we have some tile only and tile plus TM. I'll explain what is the difference between them. So if it is tile plus TM, that means this represents apps and which can be launched by clicking a tile on the launchpad itself. So from the home page you can open. But if it is only TM, then those entries are used for app-to-app navigation without a tile on the Fiori launchpad. And also you can identify the matching tiles and target mappings here. So yeah, so the approach is called role first approach in the dev system. So now you have a new task list which is called SAP Fiori FCM content activation. So here you can see the roles are now increased. If you remember, we had 450 roles. Now you can see it is 500, more than 500. So additional 100 is added from our end. So we created some custom roles. Now those custom roles you can activate from here. So these is actually far better because here you don't have any limitation that you can have to, you just have to select some subset. You can select all roles together and you can activate. But yeah, it is always good that if you split them, then it is easier, as I already discussed, to debug or troubleshoot. So yeah, so you can see here we have all the Z roles or custom roles, which we can start activating. Now we'll see that how the tools works.
Before we
Or
go
yeah,
into that,
yeah.
sorry, Yeah. Before we go into that, I would like to answer the question that we all face: how many apps do we have in the system? And since now Sanjay gave you a brief overview of the Launchpad Content Manager tool, with this we can solve this question in a very systematic manner. First, of course, launch the Content Manager, go to the tiles and target mappings view, and then click on the button called Check Services. So what does this do? This checks the service for each and every tiles and target mappings that are listed down here. Okay, and then when the result is out of this checking, then filter on the list, filter on the result list with the status of green. That means which are successful. And then you will be given the list of all the tiles and target mappings which have successfully been activated in your system. And you can just create a small spreadsheet report out of it, and that's it. You have a very systematic answer to this question in 3 little steps. And now let's see in action.
Now that we have seen the rapid content activation, let's check out the next step, that is the Launchpad Content Manager tool. Like the previous Launchpad Designer tool, this one also has 2 versions, one for the client-dependent cust layer and the other for the client-independent configuration layer. This tool has 3 separate views, one that you can now see the catalog, then the tiles and target mappings. This enlists all the tiles and target mappings that are available in the system. We also have a roles view. So, and each of these views are internavigable. Now, let's check the roles view. So here we can see all the available roles in the system and also the catalogs that are assigned to the roles. Now let's check again the tiles and target mappings. Let's search for a particular tile, maybe something with quotation maybe. So I'll just write quotation. So all relevant tiles and target mappings have been now shown. We can also search with a transaction code, yeah? For example. Yeah, so the app descriptor for the VA02 T code is now displayed. Now, if we can also search with the app ID of a Fiori app, and the relevant target mapping and the tile for that app will be displayed very easily. It also shows us which catalog actually contains this tile at this moment. Now, from here again, we can go to the catalog view of a particular catalog. And yeah, the entire content of that catalog will now be shown again. We are back to the first view where we started from this demo. Now, if we would like to check the role for a particular catalog, yeah? For example, let's search this one, and then we shall click on the button Show Usage in Roles. We will be navigated back to the roles view, only the roles that contain this catalog. Now we shall try to copy this standard catalog in a Z catalog. Okay, we can just give the new ID with something starting with Z maybe. Now if we would like to remove a few applications from this catalog, we can simply click on remove, and both tiles and target mappings, and then just click execute and wait. Yeah, the application is now removed from the Z catalog. Similarly, we can also add a new tile or target mapping in this catalog. We can just click on the button, and we are again back to the tiles and target mapping view. We can just search for a particular tile here. Yeah, so with the quotation, yeah, then we'll select the specific tile, and we shall click on the add tile target mapping reference. This will add our tile or target mapping reference to the catalog that was already selected. Yeah. In order to verify if all the services for this catalog have been activated, we can simply click on the Check Services button. So you see the status is red. We can check which tile is causing this issue. Yeah, so we found out this one. Now, if we want, we can also find out which service is causing the issue. And yeah, this is the name of the service that is causing the issue. Here we can also see the ICF services related to this particular catalog.
Okay, so thank you for listening to this. And now going back to our project lessons or lessons that we have learned, a few pointers from our actual implementation. First of all, as we mentioned, that you need to do the BW prerequisite configurations in your system to use the analytical applications. You should definitely empower your DDIC user with two parameters, which I've mentioned in the slide. One is the skip Java and the MD version of it. Otherwise, you will face restriction issues while you're trying to configure the analytical engine of your S4HANA system. Next is the co-deployed mode. This is the mode for embedded systems. Yeah, and some people may ask, what is the difference between the co-deployed processing mode and using the local RFC destination mode? Well, in technically, it's all the same. The only difference is that if you activate an OData service from co-deployed mode, then you will not find any system alias linked to that service when you check in the IWFND maintain service transaction. So don't be alarmed. This is the way it should be. So that's a good thing. Next is for exceptions. Of course, there are exceptions. You should read the prerequisite release notes for your relevant version of S4HANA for this rapid content activation. There are certain special roles which require some special manual activities, so it will not be successfully activated using these tools. So please don't be alarmed. Just read those notes, and there are very good suggestions that are given there. So even after following all the steps correctly, there would be something red. But yeah, please do not panic. So it's very easy to resolve issues. Mostly you will get reds when some OData services are blocked. Yeah, so you might not be able to kind of activate those particular OData services. And what you can do is that get the list of the services that failed. You can get it from the logs and try it out manually in the IWFND maintain service transaction. And in most of the cases, you will see they have succeeded. And in case even manually you are unable to activate the data service, then further in the investigations need to be done. Then we get the final question, actually, GUI versus Fiori. I think all of us have to face this struggle, and I couldn't find a more appropriate picture for representing this topic. So, of course, with S4HANA, Fiori Launchpad is the only end user interface. Yeah, that's for sure. That we have to enforce it. We are not going to give out SAP Lawan GUI pads for end users anymore for S4HANA. That's SAP's recommendation. Yeah. Now, as we know that with S4HANA, we can integrate any GUI T code or transaction as a Fiori Launchpad tile. That's very easily doable. But should we always do it? Because SAP themselves have already provided quite a few GUI transactions as Fiori Launchpad. Yeah, but yeah, still there could be some cases where you will find that the user needs some GUI T codes where there is no provision provided by SAP for it. Probably that is because SAP thinks there is a better Fiori app for this process. But still, if you really need it, then you need to consider a few points. First of all, the end user profile. Yeah, who is going to use these applications or these transactions? Right? If the end user is really a tech savvy person who really is very handy with SAP, old SAP environment. Yeah, so that is something that we need to note first. Second is we need to explain the pros and cons of simplicity and complexity. GUI transactions, even though they are integrated as a Fiori Launchpad tile with the Fiori theme, they're still complex. You have a lot of fields, etc., tables in one screen. Some people might find this handy if they are more experienced with the old SAP environment, but that's not always the key goal here, right? So simplicity is always welcomed. So this is something we need to highlight. Next is the performance. So GUI codes can be configured very easily as a Fiori Launchpad tile, but the performance of a GUI transaction in a Sublogon GUI and the performance of it in the web browser varies. Yeah? And sometimes there is significant difference. So this is one of the major factors that should be taken into account before considering this. And of course, extensibility. So extensibility of any Fiori application is pretty simple with the Web IDE. But yeah, with the GUI codes, you cannot really do a standard one. You have to create a custom ZT code and add your ABAP BAPIs over there. So yeah, it's effort exhaustive. Then comes the maintenance effort. So a maintenance for a normal UI5 application or a new Fiori application, yeah, it is required. And some people might argue that, okay, just maintaining a GUI transaction in a Fiori Launchpad tile is much cheaper. Okay, this I can understand. If you really want to make a custom application in Fiori, that's also very easily doable nowadays with the modern Fiori templates. Yeah? And also by using the Fiori elements from CDS annotations. There are much modern facilities here. So the effort to build a new Fiori app may not always be very high. The last point is with screen personas. So if you are really using a GUI code in the Fiori Launchpad, and you are not happy with the outlook of how it looks, then you have an option for screen personas. What screen personas do, they create a flavor on top of your GUI code where you can make the UI a little bit more fancy to a lot of extent, because there are a lot of options for screen personas where you can do a lot of automation, script recording, etc., etc. But our advice is only use screen personas where absolutely necessary, because it really differs the performance. It affects the performance to a great level. Yeah, and it can also cause nightmares for the developer. I'm speaking this from my own experience. Now, this is not a very common case, but if you get a demand that you need to make one GUI tile available in the mobile, in the Fiori for mobile, well, that's not standardly supported, right? Because Fiori applications can adhere automatically with the mobile screen dimensions, but not GUI codes. You can't do that. So screen personas is the only option over there in that kind of scenario. Screen personas, you can create adaptive views, which will adapt your GUI transaction code UI for mobile devices or any other devices. Next. So what is our recommendation for the new cutover plan for a Fiori project nowadays? Starting with Sandbox, as we showed that, yes, with the Fiori content activation, you rapidly activate all the business roles that you need, maybe all in this available in the system. And you can create Z users for them. So your Sandbox will be up and running in very short time, okay? But this is not something we should do in the rest of the systems. Yeah? So in the Sandbox, after you have all the apps up and running, do your feed gap analysis, and then come up with the correct list of applications. Yes, and then create in the dev system, create Z catalogs first in the content manager. So you don't start with the content activation in dev, you start with the content manager in dev. Yeah, this is a very important point. So there, create your Z catalog, add the applications that you have chosen from your Sandbox into this Z catalog, assign these Z catalogs in some custom roles from in your PFCG, and then activate these custom roles in the Fiori FCM content activation task list. This is different from the Fiori rapid content activation task list. As Sanjay has already showed you, that this task list allows you to activate apps from a Z business role. So not just the standard ones given by SAP, but the custom ones that are created by you. So this is the best way to do it in dev. Then what happens that you won't really end up with having hundreds of applications, which probably you don't need. Now, coming to this point, we need to keep in mind that Fiori apps do not really follow the social distancing rule that we are following now, because Fiori apps are really interdependent on each other. So while making your choice for the relevant Fiori applications, we should be very careful that we are not really missing out some important apps which are relevant for our applications. Yeah. So this has to be really checked. You can check this with Fiori Apps Library and then make your choice. And once this is done, as we have shown that most of these processes are transportable. So you won't really have to execute every step again and again in the acceptance and production systems. You can transport them, but there are some task lists that need to be rerun. Okay? For example, the enterprise search, and then for the Fiori Foundation task list, some tasks, mostly the SICF tasks, those need to be re-executed. Otherwise, it will not work. This is something from a personal experience that we are speaking. So this is how we can now handle our Fiori projects with minimal effort.
Sorry guys for interrupting, but you have 5 minutes left.
Yeah. Okay. So finally, Sanjay is going to tell you what's the future for us.
Curious to see what the future hold. Yeah, so the future hold Fiori 3. You already see the new Fiori 3 themes which are now available. So the new theme is Quartz, and also along with that, you can see there are latest SAP Fiori libraries which released. So we have SAP UI5 1.78 version available now, and 1.71 in the web ID to develop new applications, and also this Quartz-like theme and Quartz-like dark theme also available, but as of now it is only available in cloud. And also the new tile, I can say, though it is an integration card, but for the user perspective, I can say it's a better tiles. So here the cards are like some composite controls, which you can see that follow a predefined structure and offer content in a specific context. So from the card itself, you can see a lot of your data and you can act on that. And cards contain the most important information for the given object, usually a task or a list of business entities. Similar to the tile, it helps users structure their work in an intuitive and dynamic way. So what next? The next is like you can see the new intelligent shell bar. And all the applications, all the cross applications of SAP, like maybe Concur, Ariba, SuccessFactors, all are in one place. And also this Copilot digital assistant will help you to interact with your application. So you don't have to select multiple Copilot from different Concur or Ariba. Here in one place, you will get the Copilot digital assistant to help you to interact with your application requirement. So this is from the SAP Fiori roadmap also you can see that these are already planned. The most important what I feel like this multiple support in spaces which are coming next, and it will actually help the user. They don't have to switch to different launchpad. From one launchpad they can interact with all the SAP products. And also the most important thing, the one inbox. This one inbox will give you all your notification for across your SAP products like Concur, or as I told, those from those applications also you will get notifications in your one inbox. So those are the future we have, and hopefully we'll get it so early and we'll use it. So with this note, today we are closing our session. And yeah, but don't like if you feel anything, you have doubt or from this presentation is not clear, please feel free to reach out to us. Here we have the Twitter handler for both of us, and also in LinkedIn you can connect. We'd love to hear your comments and feedbacks from this presentation. and hopefully we'll meet again in some open track in these topics or maybe on other topics. And I want to thank the organizers for their hard work to make it possible. And yeah, until then, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
You guys have 1 minute left, so maybe you have time to ask one question from Natalia. She asked that how to measure performance of Fiori apps.
So yeah, I was also trying to reply on the live chat. Yeah, I was trying to reply on the live chat, but yeah, there are quite a few parameters. Yes, of course, you can measure it using the networking tools as well, of how the response time is. And but just remember that as many hops as there are. So like if there is a GUI code and then web browser, and in middle, if you also have screen personas, so as many layers as you put in, the performance goes on decreasing. Yeah, so this has to be kept in mind. And the rest, I think we can discuss it. So I will discuss it separately with a few other information. How what are the tools that are very useful for measuring this performance? Yeah.
Okay, so if you guys want to have further discussion, you can go to Discord in the unconference channel. And that's the end of the session. And today, winner of the session is Ame Mugere. Congrats to Ame Mugere for winning the raffle. And that's all. Thank you all for participating. Thank you.